1. My at-the-time boyfriend, now ex, John, and I had known each other since high school, and we were an item for one summer. But we were both a bit immature, so we broke up. I went away for college, and we didn't really stay in touch. Years later, we bumped into each other, and we got on really well, and feelings were still there. Eventually, we went on a few dates before deciding to give it another go now we're older. Not long after we started dating, John said he needed to talk to me and seemed upset. He went to a birthday party at the weekend, which I didn't know about, but couldn't go as birthday girl wanted to keep the numbers small and strictly to people she knew. John said the birthday girl cornered him into her bedroom and tried to kiss him. He said he left the party straight away. I was annoyed but accepted what he told me over the fact that he came clean of his own accord, which meant I saw no reason for him to lie to me, so we moved on from that. He was upset because he thought I would leave him, having consulted a few of our mutual friends who were also at this party. They warned him against telling me, as they were sure I'd break up with him. Fast forward a few months. I went out with my boyfriend and some of his work colleagues from his part-time gig whilst he was at uni, some of whom I've known for a long time since high school, but also some new ones. There was one girl, Janine, who was a bit overbearing and a little too friendly. She kept quizzing me about mine and John's relationship, and I figured she must love a gossip. She was also very flirty with all the guys who nicknamed her Smurfette, which she reveled in as she was the only girl tagging along with this group of guys. At least that's what they told her. They actually meant it as the village bike. The next day, John asked me what I thought of Janine. I told him, and he warned me against being friends with her, and that's when he told me she was the birthday girl. Ever since then, I was a bit wary of her, as she started following me on social media, and was always trying to be friendly with me like I'm her bestie. She eventually started dating another guy, Brian, from work, and John told me Janine had been sliding into his DMs and was badmouthing me. When his birthday came up, she asked if I put myself out for him, and that if she was his girlfriend, she would pleasure him all day long and let him do anything to her, and use her any position he likes. I've toned down the language slightly, as she was pretty graphic. That pissed me right off, and my boyfriend isn't all that bothered about his social media. I actually manage his accounts, and therefore I have his password. Needless to say, I ended up reading all her messages, and can see how John had tried to tell her to leave him alone. I told him I'm taking screenshots. He asked what I was doing with them. I said I'm going to knock her off her perch. His only instruction was just to be mindful of Brian, as he considers him to be a friend. However, I disagreed because Brian had previously told John to stop speaking to Janine because he thinks there's something going on between them, and that John instigated it. I said unfortunately Brian was collateral damage, and he should be grateful that I opened up his eyes to the fact that his girlfriend isn't all as innocent as she claims. I ended up messaging Janine and calling her a dirty whore and sent her screenshots so she knows I know everything. I also messaged Brian, attaching some screenshots, and told him to sort his woman out. I then sent it all around our mutual friends for them all to see. Janine never responded to me and unfriended me on social media. For a while, the mutual friends who saw her said she really hates me and thought I was such a bitch for faking being friends with her, and that I was a backstabber. I never regarded her as a friend. She is a colleague of my boyfriend who happens to be out with us because someone invited her. I was just being polite. I have my own friends, thank you. Brian removed himself off social media and did end up dumping her before moving abroad. Some of my friends thought I was being really harsh and vindictive to Janine, and she didn't deserve to be humiliated in that way. I wish I cared. As she was so graphic in what she wanted to do to my boyfriend sexually, I got her email address and signed her up for porn site memberships, marketing lists of various sex toy shops, job sites requiring escorts, and dating sites to actually spam her. Her email address, without giving too much away, said she was an angel. Angel my ass. 2. I applied for a job to install equipment for a large company that sells cleaning and sanitation chemicals and tools to every place you can imagine. They have a separate pest control branch and hospital supplier branch. I applied to install their leased equipment, but was immediately promoted to sales and service in a bait-and-hook scheme. It was 25% more hours on 24 calls some weekends, but did the math, so the annual pay was the same. They couldn't give me a raise within the first 2 years, but apparently could bend the promoting before 2 years rule. Whatever, I needed to get promoted to a salary position anyway. I talked to my district manager. He agreed to let me work 5 more hours overtime a week and sell new accounts, giving me more cash and working towards promotion. I got many recognitions, met with global management to share my ideas, was on product development teams as a field tester. 6 of my ideas were rolled out nationally, and I was still second from bottom of the chain. Got promoted to a salary and commissioned sales and service role, 40-hour weeks, no lease machines, no late-night calls. Used my sales skills to make $3,000 or $4,000 a month above my old salary, just in commissions. 4 months in this role, they bring us all in. They tell us they're moving all salary positions and everyone was getting new titles with lower pay. They were going to reassess pay in 4 months. I told my bosses it wasn't a 50-hour-a-week job, I can do it in 40. We agreed if I did it in 40 with the highest numbers in my district, they would adjust pay during reassessment. I was now making less than I was hired, 2/3 of my salary for the same job. I drained my savings to make it work. 4 months passed, and after 10 emails that I escalated until manager of entire West Coast operations was included, did my boss tell me they had no intentions of adjusting anyone's pay. Fine, I'm hourly now. I will be hourly now. Get paid for phone calls? I will clock in every single call. I get paid for commute. I will take the long, slow route. I get paid for answering emails. My emails will be very detailed with all the product info I can find. You want me to talk to customers? Every customer wants a long conversation. Sales is out of my job description. I sell nothing. No new customers, no product suggestions unless asked, no extra tools. Unless customer is struggling, I'm not a monster. Invoice issues above my pay grade, they can wait on hold with customer support. Customers can't call our work phones directly. No required service unless I get a work order from customer support. Against state law to transport chemicals. No chemical runs to customers that under order. My customers need my attention. It's not in my job description to order more than I use, and no one else stocks or organizes our shared storage. State law says we only work 5 out of every 7 days. Those 2 days my work phone is off. If a coworker on coverage needs a part ASAP, they should have restocked our shared storage because my perfectly stocked work truck is parked and locked. No one restocks storage. I run out of stock on the weekend and storage is out. Customer will be down until Monday. It takes me 10 minutes to fix what it takes other people more than an hour. Some days they will call me after 6 hours on an issue and I will solve it in 3 minutes over the phone. I am working 55 hours a week. Only 10 of that is actual work, 25 of that is driving and listening to podcasts. 20 is chatting or waiting for customers to notice I am there. My numbers are still the best in the district. The hours are flexible and the benefits are good, but still looking for a new job. I can only be bored to tears for so long. 3. A bit of background. I work in the customer care department, the call center, at a local HVAC appliance plumbing and electrical company. If you're in the Livingston, Wayne, Washtenaw County area in Michigan, you've probably seen our vans all over the place. And like most HVAC companies out there, we schedule our service calls based on a priority system. If you've ever been asked how old your furnace or AC is, if the company you're calling installed it or not, they're trying to find out what priority you are. Our priority list is as follows. Priority 1. Our installs and our priority service perk club. Members in a no heat, no cool, or no hot water situation. Priority 2. Any customer with 10-plus-year-old equipment. Any person who's come into our building's parts department to request service. And any employee-recommended customer must be in a no heat, no cool, and no hot water situation. Priority 3. Any previous customer with under 10-year-old equipment. In a no heat, no cool, and no hot water situation. Priority 4. New customer with under 10-year-old equipment in a no heat, no cool, no hot water situation. and any non-emergent calls, i.e. the unit is noisy or a customer needs a tech to change a filter. Things that aren't, "Oh God, it's 20 degrees out and I can't get my furnace to work, and it's freezing, please help me." Now, this can be a bit flexible, and it doesn't take things like Carriers, the brand we sell, warranty requests into account. And it's a fairly standard guide, so we can get to customers who have already paid us a shit ton of money, and customers who we can sell new furnaces to before handling people who are probably not going to purchase a new furnace through us. I.e., they're just going to want repairs, or they'll end up calling their manufacturer to get the repair covered under warranty, instead of going through us. We also run Monday to Saturday for regular service calls. Those Saturdays are usually a lighter day because it's Saturday, and we know our techs don't want to work a full day on a Saturday. Can't blame them, I don't either. Each tech usually gets about 3 or 4 calls on Saturday versus 6 or 7 on Monday to Friday. Now, onto the malicious complaints. To set the scene, it's Saturday morning around 9 AM, and the call center is about 5 minutes away from getting slammed with calls, because it's the first cold day of fall and winter in Michigan. Around 30 degrees to give you an idea, and we're currently accepting priorities 1 and 2 for Saturday's schedule. All others are being booked out to the following week. Suddenly an email pops up from our HVAC manager Tommy. It says, "Per Ken, our owner, we are open to all service calls today." We're panicking in the office because that means we have to take anything and everything that comes in, non-emergent or otherwise. Our dispatcher, Eliza, texts Tommy to make sure that he's serious, and it turns out that he is. "Take anything that comes in. We have to be aware that this is one of the coldest days so far, and be sympathetic to that," he replied. This isn't the first time our owner has tried to pull one of these say yes to everything moves. And since our call center manager is answering her phone, we decide to say, screw it. You want anything that comes in, you got it. Almost immediately after that, we're slammed by customers calling in, mostly new furnaces that were under other companies' warranties but had no heat, and non-emergent calls like noisy furnaces and filter changes. We took every single one of them. By the time our manager, Megan, had woken up to see that shitstorm about an hour after Tommy sent his email, we had already filled up the schedule, each tech having about 7 calls each. Unfortunately, Megan told us to close the schedule down and book anything else we got from Monday or after. But that hour of saying yes to every customer was cathartic. Part of me wishes that Megan would have let it continue because unfortunately, both Tommy and Ken tend to pull this stuff every time we switch over from heating to cooling, and they need to see what happens when you take everything and say yes to every customer's request. However, I also know that it's important to get back on track so our customers don't get screwed over. 4. So I was reminded of this recently as my mother-in-law for Christmas got us tickets to Disneyland. It's 2017, and personal space wasn't as big of a deal like it is today. We were with a family at Disneyland, close and extended. My oldest was 7. If you've been to Disneyland, you'll know there is a Buzz Lightyear ride right by the space rockets. It was taking forever to move in the line. Lots of kids in our group wanted to ride the Lightyear ride, and not a single kid could go solo, so as parents we had to suffer the wait with them. We got to the point we weren't moving, and my oldest wanted to ride the rockets. We could see them from our place in line. Wait for the rockets was as long as it took the previous riders to get off, more or less. Tired of waiting, oldest and I jumped out the Lightyear line and stood for the rockets. There was maybe half a dozen people in front of us, and they just loaded the rockets, so we had a little wait. Behind us comes along a mom and her daughter. The girl was younger than my kid, but not by much. Again, it's 2017, and apparently personal space has not been introduced to this duo at this time. 2020 was probably very hard for them. Now, what I haven't mentioned is that I was on my period, and I tend to be a bit gassy when I am. I was basically waiting to get on this ride and drop a silent but deadly in the air. It would get dispersed mid-air as we whirled away. No one needed to suffer. This mom and daughter kept stepping closer to us, their fronts pressed against our backs. We'd take a step forward to put more space, they'd scoot in more. Her daughter started to dance in front of us, between us, just generally not being minded. They weren't in danger of not making the next load of passengers. Don't know why they insisted on doing this. I got the feeling Mom was trying to use her kid to cut in front. "Oh, my child's in front of you. No, I'll just get in front of you and stay." We'd seen it happen in a few other lines earlier that day. I turned around and politely asked them not to crowd us, to give us some personal space. Also, for the sake of their noses, if they bumped me, my chamber was loaded and just waiting. Just to take a step back. The people behind them had given them enough room to do so. The mother proceeded to snap that it didn't matter, it was crowded. The park, maybe, the shrine, no. And so on. Just generally being a jerk about the whole thing. I asked her to keep her daughter with her then, gave the excuse that if she fell she could get hurt. This she obliged, with much murmuring. I decided the next time they got too close I'd let my silent but deadly fart loose. Because that's the kind I get on my period, so I made sure my kids stayed in front of me. No unnecessary casualties needed. Didn't have to wait long. Felt them push into my back one last time and the package was dropped. What I didn't know was it was the daughter who bumped me, and her face was the same height as my derriere, so I let it go and this little girl went, "Ew." Then the mom made a noise when she got a whiff of it. Needless to say, they took more than a few steps back and found a rocket to ride on the opposite side from us. 5. This happened about 4 years ago, and I've been itching to share it recently. I used to work for Big Brown as a delivery driver. At the time, I was still a covered driver, which is essentially a full-time driver without a permanent route. Every day, you'd go in not knowing what part of the city you'd be delivering to. It sucked. I had started to get dispatched to a pretty nice area regularly since the regular driver was out for a few months, and felt like I was hitting my groove. I could tell with pretty decent accuracy how long my day would be just by looking at the stop count. And the route was just outside of the city in what we all considered the countryside, so it was beautiful too. I was really starting to enjoy it. Then in comes Sizzleburger. Sizzle was a cover driver like me, but he had about a year of seniority on me. That meant that he was allowed to choose which route he wanted to take based on who ranked lower than him. The rules about this were always weird. Like when I would try to do it, management would push back and say I wasn't allowed, even though it is in our contract. Sizzle was also very full of himself. He looked like a wannabe mob boss from The Sopranos. And whenever he was mad about his route, he'd file a grievance and come out and say, "This shit's gonna cease." We did not get along since he was, a complete dick to everyone. The day finally comes when Sizzle decides he doesn't like that I'm running the cushy route, and he's tired of the one right next to it, which was really not that bad. I had looked at the dispatch list and did my little time calculation, so I knew that I could finish his route faster than I could the cushy one. So I patiently complied and went to work. It was getting towards the end of the day. I had maybe 5 stops left when I got a call from my supervisor. "Hey, Robot Turkey, you're not going to like this, but I need you to go take 30 stops off Sizzleburger because he has 70 stops left." You've got to be kidding me. You know he bumped me from that route this morning? I know. He's been on our last nerve with the grievances, so just go take the stops and I promise you won't get bumped by him again. I knew he must have gone out on the route, and at some point realized that he picked the worst route for the day based on stop count. But to have 70 stops left at around 7 o'clock meant he had been sitting on his ass for half the day. But again I complied and went to meet up with Sizzle. I pulled up to his truck butt to butt and opened the door. Immediately I'm hit with a smell like walking into a bar at 2 a.m. when all the beer is drying up on the floor. I look at him and he is obviously drunk. An alcoholic drunk like him thinks he can hide it, but his eyes were so bloodshot it was just pathetic. I say nothing while he tries to play down the fact that I'm helping him on the route he bumped me from. I take my boxes and leave. If this was another job, I might not feel so passionate about this, but as a truck driver, I have zero tolerance for anyone getting behind the wheel intoxicated, especially a death machine like those box trucks. After I left, I call my buddy, who was another driver with a lot of seniority, and ask what I should do. He says he'll call the soup and that I should finish the stops I had. About 10 minutes later, I get a call from the soup again. "Hey, we all know what's going on. I just wanted to let you know Sizzleburger will no longer be working for us. We've been waiting for actual proof that he's been drinking on the job, and you just gave it to us, so good job. and we're sending 2 more guys to split up the route. In his own words, this shit's gonna cease. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 210. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please hit that like button before you go if you'd be so kind. Okay, let's see. Let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: which Disney character do you think would be best at running a criminal empire? Inspired by a mix of stories in today's video. Realistically, in my opinion, this is my choice of course, it has to be one of the princesses because they get things done. I mean, sure, Scrooge McDuck, he's good with money and that's fine. He could probably be the accountant. But I think Elsa from Frozen is probably going to be the best mafia boss. Keep things cool. But you may have a different answer, and I'd love to see it, so please do drop your answer in a comment below. Thank you kindly. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.